I came back from a 9-day business trip, suitcase in hand and a bouquet of sunflowers, her favorite. I expected the warm smell of her roasted chicken, the sound of our daughter humming in the kitchen. Instead, I saw my clothes scattered across the front lawn like a crime scene. Shirts, ties, socks, dumped like garbage. The front door was locked. Her car was gone. I called her. No answer. I called again. Straight to voicemail. Inside, the house was eerily clean. No mugs in the sink, no shoes at the doorway. Just a note on the dining table. Please don't look for us. It's better this way. That's when I noticed my bank accounts had been emptied 3 days ago. 5 years ago, my wife died in an accident I couldn't forgive myself for not preventing. My daughter Emily was 22 then. I tried to rebuild something with her. I really tried. Paid off her college, bought her a car, showed up at every birthday. But I had missed too much, especially when it mattered, like her 10th birthday, her prom, her mother's funeral. I thought I was making it right. Turns out, I was wrong. And now she was gone, again. But this time, it wasn't just abandonment. This time, someone had helped her vanish, and he had my money in his pocket. Now I don't want an apology. I want the truth. And I'm not leaving until I find it. The rain hadn't started yet, but the clouds looked ready to burst. I pulled into the driveway, squinting through the windshield, trying to shake off the exhaustion from the airport delays and back-to-back meetings. 9 days. 9 damn days. Long enough to miss home. Long enough to think things might be okay when I got back. The garage door didn't open. That was odd. Janet always left it open for me when she knew I was coming. I figured maybe the remote had finally given out. I parked on the street and stepped out, cradling the bouquet of sunflowers in one hand and a slim gift box in the other. Emily's favorite chocolate truffles, flown in from Belgium. Stupidly expensive, but it felt good to bring her something. A peace offering, if nothing else. Then I saw them. Shirts, ties, undershirts, piled in soggy lumps across the lawn, like someone had opened my suitcase and hurled it in anger. My favorite gray blazer lay half-soaked near the rose bush, the sleeve twisted like a broken limb. I froze, the paper bag around the bouquet crinkling in my grip. My first instinct? A break-in. I dropped the box on the porch and hurried to the front door. Locked. I rang the bell. Nothing. Knocked. Still nothing. I stepped back, dialed Janet. Voicemail. Tried Emily. Straight to voicemail. I texted both. I'm home. Is everything okay? No reply. I fumbled for the spare key under the third stone by the steps. It was still there. Heart pounding, I opened the door. Silence. The house smelled faintly of cinnamon and bleach. A weird combination. No shoes by the door. No purse on the hook. The picture frames on the entryway table were still there. Me, Janet, Emily, on her graduation day. But the living room was too neat. Not lived in. Cold. Janet, I called out. Emily? Only the hum of the fridge answered. I stepped further in. The TV remote was perfectly centered on the coffee table. The blanket usually slung over the couch was folded into a tight square. I moved to the kitchen. The trash bin was empty. Too empty. As if someone had scrubbed the place clean for a showing. Then I saw the note. It was centered on the dining table, written in Emily's handwriting. Please don't look for us. It's better this way. Just that. No dad. No love, Emily. Just cold ink on plain paper. My mouth went dry. I looked around again, slower this time. A few dishes gone. One of the family photo frames missing. Janet's baking tins that usually cluttered the kitchen island. Gone. I ran upstairs. Our bedroom was stripped, mattress bare, drawers open, empty. No suitcases in the closet. The safe we use for documents sat ajar, papers gone. Emily's room was the same, neatly gutted. Her sketchbook, which she always left half open on her desk, gone. Her violin case, gone. Only the indents of furniture remained on the carpet, like ghosts. I sat on the edge of her bed, the truffles still clutched in my other hand. 9 days ago, I kissed my daughter on the cheek and told her I'd be home in time for Sunday dinner. She smiled, half-heartedly, like she always did. That strange, polite smile she'd been giving me since the funeral 5 years ago. I never quite earned back the real one. And now this. I checked my phone again. Nothing. Back downstairs, I tried the security cameras. The app wouldn't load. Password changed. I opened my banking app. 3 major withdrawals over the last 72 hours. 1 from our joint savings. 1 from Emily's account, where I'd been quietly depositing $500 a week for the last 3 years. The last one, from a new credit line I hadn't approved. Total, $37,500. All gone. I stood still in the living room, surrounded by the echo of furniture that wasn't there anymore, and felt the weight of something I didn't have a name for. Was it betrayal? Abandonment? No. It was something worse, something quiet and final. I picked up the note again, turning it over, as if maybe on the back there'd be more. There wasn't. Then it hit me. The note wasn't Janet's handwriting. It was Emily's. Janet would never leave like this. Not without a conversation. Not without a fight, even. But Emily. Emily had always held her silence like a weapon. My daughter, the one I was finally starting to think might forgive me, had orchestrated this. She didn't just walk out. She had erased me. I sat in the kitchen, holding the note in one hand and the untouched chocolates in the other. The silence had weight, like I could hear everything that used to be here. Emily's laughter, Janet humming off key, the occasional clatter of dishes when they argued over something silly. All of it now, just a memory pressed against these walls. I tried to remember when things started falling apart. It wasn't sudden. It never is. The unraveling is always slow, quiet, polite. Back then, I told myself I was building something for them. Long nights, missed birthdays, business trips stacked like bricks between me and home. But when Emily was 10, she called me in the middle of a meeting. I still remember the sound of her voice, trembling but brave. "Daddy, can you come to my birthday this time? Please?" I said I'd try. I always said that. Then the flight to Chicago got moved up. The meeting was urgent, and I didn't make it. When I got home, 2 days later, her cake was half eaten in the fridge. Her gift sat unopened on her desk. She never asked again. Janet stopped waiting too. She filled the gaps the best she could: ballet recitals, piano lessons, doctor appointments, all while pretending we were still a team. But I wasn't there. Not really. I was closing deals, flying across time zones, shaking hands with men whose names I've long forgotten. The night Janet died, I was in New York. Heart attack, sudden, alone. Emily called me from the hospital. "She's gone, Dad." That was the moment it hit me. Not just that Janet was gone, but that I had been absent the entire time she needed me most. I flew back that night and held Emily as she cried. But even then, I knew I was too late. I had shown up for the end credits of a movie I never watched. From that moment on, I promised myself I'd make things right. I moved back to town, bought a smaller house, took fewer contracts, paid off Emily's student loans without telling her. I deposited money into her account every week, hoping she'd use it for anything that brought her joy. I offered rides when her car broke down, left groceries at her door when she refused dinner. Most of the time, she said thank you. Sometimes she smiled. That was enough for me. I never pushed. I never asked for more. I thought giving her space was what she needed. But in the last few months, something shifted. She laughed a little more. Joined me for dinner once a week. Let me fix her faucet instead of hiring someone. She even sent me a photo of her latest painting, something she hadn't done in years. And before I left on this last trip, she hugged me at the airport. It wasn't long. It wasn't tight, but it was real. I remember thinking, maybe she's coming back to me. Now the house was empty, and my account was drained. I stared at the note again, the handwriting, the wording. Us. Not just her. Who else? A knock on the door jolted me from the past. I opened it to find Linda, our neighbor. She looked nervous, eyes darting behind me as if expecting to see someone else. Frank, you okay? Not really. I saw the moving truck. Day before yesterday. Thought maybe you were leaving too. Did you see Emily? She hesitated. Yeah. She was with a young man, tall, beard, kind of intense. I frowned. You know his name? No, sorry, but I heard them arguing. Quiet, but heated. He didn't want to wait for you to come back. My heart thudded. Wait for me? What do you mean? Linda shifted uncomfortably. She said something like, he'll just try to talk me out of it. I can't let him get in my head again. I thanked her, closed the door, and sat back down. So it wasn't just Emily deciding to disappear. Someone had helped push her over the edge. Someone had been whispering in her ear. And maybe, just maybe, that someone didn't want me around at all. The bank statements were brutal to look at. Clean, methodical withdrawals over 3 days. No panic, no errors. Whoever helped her knew exactly how to disappear without a trace. I called the bank. They confirmed the transactions were authorized through Emily's login credentials. No sign of hacking. It wasn't theft. It was consent. The security cameras were another dead end. The cloud account had been deactivated. When I called the company, they told me the cancellation request came from my own registered email. A reset request sent 5 days ago. I didn't remember doing that. I checked my sent folder. Nothing. But then again, how hard would it be to reset a password if someone had access to my home, my laptop? I needed answers, not just from machines. I drove to Lisa's apartment, Emily's closest friend since college. She opened the door halfway, hesitation etched across her face. Frank, please, I just need to know she's safe. Lisa sighed, then stepped aside. I haven't heard from her in 2 days, she said, leading me into her small living room. She said she was going away for a while. With someone. With who? Lisa hesitated. A guy named Kyle. They've been spending time together lately. Met at some art thing. Kyle. I didn't know the name. But something about the way Lisa said it, tight, uncertain, put me on edge. He's not good for her, she added quickly. He doesn't work, talks a lot of big ideas, but I've seen him get angry. Over nothing. You think he hurt her? I think she believes he understands her. That's dangerous. Back in the car, I searched his name through public databases. Kyle Mason. 2 previous misdemeanors. Disorderly conduct. 1 sealed juvenile case. No steady employment. No fixed address in the last 2 years. He was a ghost with a paper trail. I found a cell number linked to an old apartment lease and called it. To my surprise, he picked up. Yeah? This is Frank Wilson, Emily's father. Silence. Then laughter. Well, well, the great benefactor. I want to talk. I bet you do. He texted me an address 15 minutes later. A diner just off Highway 6. Remote. Quiet. Kyle looked younger than I expected. Late 20s. Unshaven, wiry, eyes sharp and narrow. He didn't stand when I arrived. Just leaned back in the booth, arms crossed. She's not in danger if that's what you came to ask, he said. Then where is she? Where she wants to be, away from you. I didn't respond. I just sat down across from him. I don't know what you think you're doing, I said. But if you've convinced her to cut me off, you've made a mistake. She made that decision long before I came along, he said. I just helped her see the cage she was still in. She's not in a cage. He leaned forward. You bought her everything, paid her bills, showed up like a ghost dropping cash. That's not love. That's control. I clenched my jaw. I was trying to make up for my absence. By replacing presents with money? She didn't want a bank account, Frank. She wanted a father. His words hit harder than I expected. Then he smiled. Funny thing is, I remember you. You don't remember me, do you? I stared at him. No recognition. He pulled something from his wallet, a photo, a woman and a young boy, Janet, and a kid I vaguely recalled from old arguments, old guilt. I'm Kyle, Janet's son, from before you two got married. My stomach turned. She tried to introduce me to you once. You told her I wasn't your problem. I remembered. Vaguely. A fight in the kitchen. Me, tired from work. Janet crying. A boy I never acknowledged. I dismissed him, and now here he was. Emily doesn't know. She does, Kyle said. And she's still left with me. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. I don't want to go back to that gilded cage, Dad. Please don't follow me. Kyle stood, tossing a few crumpled bills on the table. You gave her everything, except the one thing she needed, freedom. Then he walked out, and I sat there, heart thudding, with the realization that the past I thought I'd buried had just come back. Not to haunt me, but to take her. The bank manager's voice was steady, almost rehearsed, but each word cut like a blade. Yes, Mr. Wilson, the account was accessed and legally transferred. The beneficiary was changed to a Mr. Kyle Mason, authorized by Emily Wilson through power of attorney. I gripped the edge of the desk to keep myself upright. How much? Roughly $37,000 over 3 separate transactions. And there's nothing you can do? I'm afraid not. All documents were verified and signed. Your daughter had full access to the funds. I walked out of the bank in a daze. Outside, the sun was blinding, but I felt cold. I called my lawyer immediately, rambling about freezing accounts, financial abuse, family manipulation. He listened, patient but clinical. You'd have a case if it was fraud, he said, but this was consented. She's an adult, and unless you can prove coercion, there's not much legal ground. I hung up. Back at home, I stood in the living room that felt emptier with every hour. This wasn't just about the money. It was about what it represented. The last thread I had to my daughter, cut clean. It wasn't just that Emily had left. It was that she had weaponized the one thing I thought I was using to fix things, my generosity. I spent that evening going through every email, every text, every photo I had of her. I stared at them, trying to pinpoint when it all shifted. When Kyle slithered into her life. When my daughter started slipping from my hands. But what haunted me most wasn't Kyle's manipulation. It was the possibility that Emily wasn't manipulated at all. The next day, I called an old friend, Greg Simmons, private investigator, former cop. He owed me a favor. I need a background check, I told him. Deep. On a guy named Kyle Mason. Within 24 hours, Greg sent me a file that made my stomach churn. Kyle had a pattern. 3 previous relationships with women significantly older than him, all within the last 5 years. Each woman had some form of financial distress afterward. Lawsuits never went far. They always backed down, claiming misunderstandings. One woman, a widow, had lost $80,000 in a fake investment scheme Kyle advised her on. Another had signed over a car. The third, a joint lease on an apartment, followed by months of unpaid rent and a broken lease. He vanished overnight. Emily was his latest project. I printed every page of the report, spread them across my dining table, and stared. None of it made sense. Emily was smart, wary. She hated freeloaders and phonies. She once called out my business partner for misusing company funds after just 2 conversations. So how had Kyle slipped past her radar? Unless he hadn't. Unless she knew. That thought lodged in my chest like a splinter I couldn't pull out. I drove to Lisa's apartment again. This time, she didn't look surprised to see me. I need the truth, I said. Please. She hesitated, then let me in. She told me, Lisa said, quietly, about the money, about the transfer. She didn't look scared. She looked deliberate. She's being manipulated, I insisted. Lisa shook her head. No. She knows who Kyle is. She told me he's a bastard, but he listens, and he never pretends to be someone he's not, unlike my father. That hurt more than I expected. She said that? Lisa nodded. She said she doesn't care if he's using her, because at least she chose it. At least she's not being bought into silence anymore. I couldn't breathe for a second. She knows what he's doing, Lisa whispered, and she's letting it happen. Back home, I sat in the dark, turning the words over in my head. At least she chose it. That's when I realized this wasn't just Kyle's con. It was Emily's rebellion. I had spent years thinking I was rebuilding something, but to her, it must have felt like I was replacing presents with payment, guilt with gifts. She needed me to feel helpless, to feel the abandonment she lived with for decades. Kyle was a vessel, a means, but the punishment, that was hers. I opened my phone. The last text she sent still glowed on the screen. I don't want to go back to that gilded cage, Dad. It was never about the money. It was about finally making me understand what it meant to lose something you loved and know it was your fault. She agreed to meet me at a cafe on the edge of town. Neutral ground. Public. No history attached. I arrived 20 minutes early and sat at a table in the back, facing the door. My hands shook as I stirred coffee I didn't want. Every time the bell above the entrance jingled, my heart jolted. When she walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. Her hair was pinned up, her shoulders squared. She wore a dark coat, no makeup, and the same guarded expression she used to wear as a teenager, right before she shut me out for a week. She didn't smile. I stood, but she didn't reach for a hug. Just sat down, arms crossed, like she was in a job interview she didn't want. "Thank you for coming," I said. She nodded once. "I wanted to see you, to understand." She tilted her head. "Understand what, Dad? Why? Why all of this? Why now?" Her voice was calm, precise. You want to talk about time? I didn't answer. She leaned in slightly. Because I've been waiting for this conversation since I was 10 years old. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. You were supposed to take me to the zoo, she said. Remember? I wore that stupid giraffe hat for 2 days before, just to show you how excited I was. I remembered, barely. A meeting had run late. I missed the train home. You called 2 hours after you were supposed to be there, she said. Said you were sorry. Said you'd make it up to me. I was working. I was a child, she snapped, loud enough that a man 2 tables over turned to look. Her voice dropped again. You left me sitting on the porch in the cold, holding 2 tickets I begged Mom to print. I couldn't breathe. I didn't need a good father after Mom died, Dad. I needed one when she was alive. I needed one when I had chicken pox and you were in Toronto. I needed one when I failed geometry and thought I was stupid. I needed you then. I know, I whispered. No, you don't. Her eyes didn't soften. Because every time you sent a check or left groceries at my door, you told yourself it was enough, that it made up for all of it. Tears welled in my eyes, hot and sudden. I was trying. She looked away. Too late. The silence between us stretched until I couldn't hold it anymore. I'm sorry, I said, voice breaking. God, I'm so sorry, Emily. I thought I could fix things. I thought money would fill the cracks. I thought if I just stayed close enough. She stood up. Don't cry, Dad. It doesn't suit you. Please, just no, she said firmly. This wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. You needed to see what it feels like to be forgotten. She turned to leave. I stayed frozen in that seat long after she disappeared through the door. I didn't go home right away. I drove around for hours, streets blurring under the headlights, trying to piece together where I had lost her. Maybe I never really had her to begin with. That night, I sat in the living room and stared at the walls we used to decorate together for Christmas. I didn't turn the lights on. The dark felt honest. The next morning, I called my realtor. I want to list the house, I said. Over the next week, I packed boxes in silence. No photos, no nostalgia, just motion. I told my company I was taking an indefinite leave, cleared my calendar, told no one why. Then one evening, I wrote Emily a letter. Pen and paper. No screen. No edits. Emily, I know I can't undo the past. I know sorry is a word you've heard too many times. Too late. But I say it anyway. I'm sorry. I won't ask for another chance. I won't chase you. I only want you to be okay. If you're happy without me, I'll stay gone. If you ever need anything at all, I'll be here. Quietly. Love, Dad. I mailed it and let it go. 2 weeks passed. Then, one night, my phone buzzed. Emily, if you're free, come to dinner tomorrow? I stared at the message for a long time, heart thudding. Not forgiveness, but maybe, just maybe, a start. The sky was dusky when I pulled up to the small brick duplex. Her porch light was on, glowing like a quiet invitation. I sat in the car for a long moment, hands gripping the wheel. My chest ached with something heavy but unfamiliar. Maybe hope, maybe fear. I didn't bring anything with me. No flowers, no gifts, just me. When she opened the door, she didn't smile, but she didn't close it either. Her eyes scanned me quickly, like she was checking to see if I'd changed in the 2 weeks since we last spoke. Hi, I said. She stepped aside. Come in. The living room was modest, tidy. A few paintings leaned against the wall. Her work, The air smelled faintly of roasted vegetables and something sweet underneath. She led me to the dining table. 2 plates were set, simple, unadorned, no candles, no theatrics. We sat. She passed the bread. I took it. She poured water. I nodded in thanks. For several minutes, we ate in silence. It wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't warm either, just cautious. The meal was good. Roasted chicken, potatoes, sautéed greens. Nothing store-bought, all made by her hands. I chewed slowly, not because I wasn't hungry, but because I didn't want to miss a second of this moment. Halfway through the meal, she spoke. "Kyle's gone." I looked up, searching her face for pain. There was none, just clarity. "I ended it," she continued. "It wasn't what I thought it was. I didn't ask questions. I didn't say I told you so. I'm sorry," I said. She shrugged, stabbing at a potato. "It's okay. I needed to know what it felt like, to walk away from something that doesn't serve me anymore." There was weight in those words, but I didn't pry. A few bites later, she added, "I see now. He used the same language you did. Promises with holes in them." I nodded slowly. I wanted to believe someone could love me without guilt attached. But I confused rebellion with healing. That silence returned. Still cautious, but maybe less sharp. "I read your letter," she said quietly. I put down my fork. "I didn't expect it to change anything," I said. "It didn't," she replied, "but it made something clear." I waited. "You finally stopped trying to fix it. You just let me choose." Her eyes met mine then, and for the first time in years, I didn't see accusation. I didn't see distance. I saw grief. The kind you carry, not the kind you throw. "I'm not ready to forgive," she said. "I'm not asking you to," I replied. "But," she hesitated, "I don't want to hate you either. That's exhausting." I almost laughed, but it caught in my throat. "I want to try," she continued. "Not to forget, not to pretend, but to see if maybe we can find something new. From here." My voice cracked. "I'd like that." "Not with money," she warned. "I know. Not with gifts or offers or silent apologies." I nodded. "Just presence." She leaned back in her chair, studying me. "That," she said, "might be enough." After dinner, we moved to the living room. She brought out tea. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. The quiet between us had changed shape, less like distance, more like space. A few minutes later, I heard a soft thump from the hallway. A door creaked open. Tiny footsteps padded across the floor. A little girl appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes, hair tousled from sleep. She was maybe 4, in a lavender pajama set with stars on it. Emily looked at her, then at me. "Come here, baby," she said softly. The child climbed onto her lap and blinked at me curiously. "This is Frank," Emily said. The girl looked at her mother. Emily hesitated, then turned to me. Her voice was low, but steady. "This is my daughter, Lila." I didn't breathe. She looked down at the child, smoothing her hair. "And Lila, this is your grandpa." The little girl blinked at me, then smiled. "Hi, Grandpa." Something in my chest cracked wide open. I swallowed hard, nodding as I leaned forward, eyes burning. "Hi, sweetheart," I said. "It's so good to meet you." Emily said nothing else that night. She just sat with her daughter curled against her, watching me quietly. She didn't ask me to stay longer. She didn't promise we'd do this again. But she let me sit there. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel like I was trying to earn my place. I simply had one.